Yesterday, 3 reports dropped on the same day from Microsoft, OpenAI, and Amazon that together paint a picture that I think every single person using the internet needs to understand. Because the same AI tools that you and I use every day to write emails and generate code and summarize documents, those exact same tools are now being used by hackers to break into companies, steal data, and deploy ransomware at a speed that was physically impossible 12 months ago. And so I spent the last 24 hours going through every report, every technical disclosure, every named threat group, and every number. And what I found is not a warning about the future. This is fundamentally a description of what is happening right now, today, to companies you've heard of using tools you've used. And by the end of this video, I'm going to give you the exact framework for what this means if you're a builder, a business owner, or just someone who has accounts online. Because the game changed this week and most people don't even know it yet. And so let me start with the number that I can't stop thinking about. Because when I read it, I thought it was a typo. A single hacker. Bloomberg reported it may have been literally one person used AI tools to break into more than 600 firewalls across 55 countries in 5 weeks. 600, not 6, not 60, 600 devices across 55 countries in 35 days. How is that possible, right? And the thing is, this person didn't use some sophisticated zero-day exploit. They didn't find a secret vulnerability that nobody knew about. They targeted devices with weak passwords and no multi-factor authentication. Basic stuff. The kind of thing that every IT security training tells you to fix. But here's what changed. AI helped this one person scan, identify, breach, and move through those networks at a scale that would have previously required an entire team of experienced hackers working full time. Said differently, AI didn't make this person smarter, it made them much faster. And speed at scale is the whole game in hacking. And so let me tell you specifically how this worked, because the technical details matter. Amazon's chief information security officer published the full analysis. The hacker used a system called Arxon that fed reconnaissance data from compromised devices into AI models, specifically DeepSeek and Claude, to generate structured attack plans. And when I say structured, I mean these plans included specific instructions for gaining domain admin access, where to look for credentials, what exploitation steps to take, and how to move laterally to other devices. In some cases, Claude code was configured to execute offensive tools on its own, in-packet scripts, Metasploit modules, password cracking tools, without the hacker needing to approve each command. The AI was running the attack while the humans supervised. That's the same agent workflow that developers use to automate code reviews and deployments. The architecture is identical. The intent is the only difference. Now think about what that means. One person, basic technical skills, commercially available AI tools, and 600 compromised firewalls across 55 countries. What does that tell you about the barrier to entry for cyber attacks in 2026? The CEO of Amazon's security division put it plainly. AI helped an unsophisticated actor exploit at scale. So when I read that one person with AI did what used to require a team, I understood exactly what the implications are for every builder out there. And so that same week, Microsoft published a report titled AI as Tradecraft. And this is not a blog post from some security startup trying to sell you something. This is Microsoft Threat Intelligence, which tracks over 300 threat actors, including 160 nation-state groups and 50 ransomware gangs. And they said something that I really want you to sit with. They said threat actors are operationalizing AI along the entire cyber attack lifecycle, not just phishing emails, every stage. Reconnaissance, social engineering, infrastructure development, malware creation, and post-compromise activity. And so let me give you the specific groups they named, because this is not theoretical. A group uses AI to create fake identities, fake resumes, and fake communications to get hired as remote workers at companies. They prompt AI with things like create a list of 100 names and generate email address formats that match specific identity profiles. And once they're hired, they use that access to exfiltrate data. How do you defend against an employee who was never real, right? Another group uses AI coding tools to generate, refine, and re-implement malware components. They created a payload through AI-assisted iterative development. And Microsoft said this group demonstrated rapid capability growth specifically because of AI tools. And so simultaneously, Google published their own threat intelligence report showing the exact same pattern. Are using Gemini across the full attack cycle. One group consulted Gemini multiple days a week for technical support, using it to troubleshoot problems and generate malware code while they were in the middle of an active operation. Think about that for a second. How is that different from how you use it? They're using Gemini the way you and I use it, as a coding assistant, except their code is malware. So what guardrail prevents that? A group used Gemini to craft convincing personas, translate phishing emails into natural sounding language, and develop a proof of concept exploit for a WinRAR vulnerability. A group literally had Gemini analyze SQL injection results and remote code execution techniques against specific targets. But here's the part that I think most people miss, right? And this is where it gets really interesting from a builder perspective. Google also found a piece of malware that uses Gemini's API to dynamically generate malicious code in memory. Said differently, the malware doesn't ship with pre-written attack code. It calls Gemini in real time and has it write the code on the fly, which means every instance of the malware is different. Every attack is unique. How do you catch something that's never existed before? Traditional antivirus that looks for known code signatures can't catch something that's written fresh every time it runs, right? And so if you think that's the ceiling, let me tell you about what Anthropic disclosed in November, because this is the one that changed everything. A group used Claude Code to conduct what Anthropic calls the first documented large-scale cyber espionage campaign, largely executed without human intervention. They targeted roughly 30 organizations, tech companies, financial institutions, chemical manufacturers, government agencies, and the AI performed 80 to 90% of the tactical operations independently. It made thousands of requests per second. This is an attack speed that for human hackers would be simply impossible to match. Those are Anthropic's words, not mine. And so here's how it worked. The humans chose the targets and set up the framework. They jailbreak Claude by pretending to be employees of a legitimate cybersecurity firm doing defensive testing. And then they stepped back. Claude autonomously discovered internal services, mapped complete network topology, queried databases, extracted data, categorized everything by intelligence value, created backdoors, and exfiltrated data, all with the human operators only stepping in at maybe 4 to 6 critical decision points across the entire campaign. About 20 minutes of total human involvement. The rest was AI. And yes, Claude makes mistakes. It hallucinated some credentials. It overstated its progress on certain targets. But what happens when it stops making those mistakes? Because those imperfections are literally the only thing standing between where we are now and fully autonomous cyber attacks. Let me do the math on that so you understand the trend. The UK AI Security Institute published a report tracking how long AI can operate autonomously on cyber tasks. In early 2023, the answer was less than 10 minutes. By mid-2025, it was over an hour. That capability is doubling roughly every 8 months. Apprentice-level cyber task success went from 9% to 50% in 2 years. And for the first time in 2025, a model completed an expert-level cyber task that would require over 10 years of human experience. So you either understand this curve is accelerating and you prepare for it, or you pretend it's not happening and you become one of the 600 firewalls. There is no middle ground. Real quick, if this breakdown is useful to you, I'm doing one of these every single day. Deep analysis on what's actually happening in AI. Subscribe and I'll see you tomorrow. Now let me tell you about the defense side, because something happened on Friday that most people miss. And so here's the part that gives me some hope, because the same AI capabilities that hackers are weaponizing are also being turned against them. And it's happening fast. On Friday, March 7th, OpenAI launched Codex Security. This is an AI-powered security agent that scans code repositories, finds vulnerabilities, validates them in sandbox environments, and proposes fixes. And so over the last 30 days of its beta, it scanned 1.2 million commits across external open source projects. Let me say that number again. 1.2 million commits, and it found 792 critical vulnerabilities and 10,561 high severity findings. Critical issues appeared in less than 0.1% of scanned commits. And those weren't theoretical bugs, they found real exploitable vulnerabilities in OpenSSH, PHP, Chromium, and other products that millions of developers depend on. 14 CVEs have been analyzed. How long would a human security team take to scan 1.2 million commits? Weeks? Months? AI did it in 30 days. Netgear, who was an early tester, said it felt like having an experienced product security researcher working alongside their team. And so Anthropic launched Claude Code Security a few weeks earlier, doing similar work, scanning code bases for vulnerabilities and suggesting patches. Microsoft has disrupted thousands of accounts associated with fraudulent activity. And the UK AI Security Institute found that while hackers need AI jailbreaks to attack, the time it takes to find those jailbreaks increased from 10 minutes to over 7 hours between model generations. The defense is getting harder to crack, even as the offense gets more automated. But here's the honest assessment that I think most people in the security industry won't give you. The offense is winning right now. And why? Because the defenders have to find every vulnerability. The attackers only have to find one, right? And when the attacker has AI scanning thousands of targets simultaneously while generating unique malware for each one, does that asymmetry get better or worse? It gets worse. You either accept that math and act accordingly, or you become a case study. And so here's the framework, and I'm basing this on everything the reports are actually saying, not on what sounds reassuring. If you run a business of any size, the era of basic passwords and optional multi-factor authentication is over, period. The 640 gate breach didn't use any exploits. It used weak passwords without multi-factor authentication. That's it. AI made it possible for one person to exploit that mistake across 55 countries. And so the first thing you do is audit every single service that faces the internet and make sure MFA is on everything. Not most things, everything, right? Because the math on this is simple. If you have 100 services and 99 have MFA, which one does the attacker's AI find first? The one that doesn't, in seconds. Second, treat every AI tool your team uses as a potential attack surface. The Amazon report showed that hackers are building a black market for API keys because stolen API access to AI tools lets them run attacks at scale without paying for it. Google's report showed that organizations with large API token allocations are prime targets. And so if your team uses Claude or Gemini or any AI service, those API keys need the same level of protection as your database credentials, right? You wouldn't put your database password in a Slack channel. So why would you treat your AI API key any differently? Because in the wrong hands, your AI subscription becomes the hacker's weapon. Third, and this is the one that changes how I think about building products, assume that AI generated attacks are already targeting your users. The phishing email that used to have broken grammar and obvious tells now reads perfectly because it's using Gemini to translate and localize it. The malware that antivirus used to catch by signature is now generated fresh every time because it's calling Gemini's API in real time. And so your security model has to move from pattern matching to behavior monitoring. You can't catch what you've never seen before by looking for what you've seen before. And so the builders who figure this out first are going to have a massive competitive advantage because trust is about to become the most valuable thing in software. And so here's the bottom line. AI is now on both sides of every hack. The same models that write your code are writing the malware. The same models that help you find bugs are helping attackers find exploits. The same models that generate your marketing emails are generating phishing emails that your customers can't distinguish from real ones. And you know what the scariest part is? Every single company I just named, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Anthropic, all published evidence of this happening in the last 30 days. 4 of the biggest companies on earth all saying the same thing at the same time. When does that happen, right? That doesn't happen unless the problem is real and accelerating. And so the question isn't whether AI-powered attacks will affect you. It's whether you'll be ready when they do. The builders who invest in security now, real security, not checkbox security, are the ones who will still be standing when the first fully autonomous breach hits. Because based on the trajectory that the UK AI Security Institute is tracking, where autonomous cyber capability doubles every 8 months, that day is not years away. It's months away. And the only thing that separates you from 600 firewalls is whether you took this seriously before it was too late. That's it. I'll see you tomorrow.